We're being joined by Chris Stewart, a congressman. He was an Air Force officer, distinguished graduate, top of his class, officer of the training school, undergraduate pilot training, 14 years as a pilot, flying both rescue helicopters. Oh, I don't want to get hurt. Oh, my gosh. And a B-1B bomber. He holds the world's speed records, including the world's record for the fastest nonstop flight around the world. He's written 17 books, national bestsellers, 6 different languages. And he's also on, some of those super secret, intelligence committees. So I wanted to get here and see what we could get from him. Usually nothing, but I thought we'd just pump him for information about what happened with the Nord Stream pipelines. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Glenn. That's the nicest introduction I've had in a long time.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
You're a conservative, so they're not going to give you nice introductions.
That's true.
So, Chris, tell me what you can about, there's a lot of people that their first thought with the Nord Stream pipeline was, oh my gosh, did we do this?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people have seen the Tucker Carlson piece and some other writing that has indicated that. And let me tell you, Glenn, first, we genuinely don't know. Sometimes when I come on your program, you're kind of tease me saying you pump me for information and I don't tell you anything. Sometimes I know but can't say.
Right.
But in this case, we really don't know yet.
Okay, wait. So we don't know who did it, but are you including we don't know if we did it?
No, I don't think there's any reason to believe that we did it. And in fact, I think I say with a high degree of confidence, as much as you can in a world that's gone crazy. And there's times in the past when I'd say, hey, I don't think that's true. And it turns out to be true later on. So I say it with a bit of caution. But no, I don't believe we did it. I don't think there's any reason for us to do it. If we had done that, I think we would know. We would be aware of it. There'd be some evidence of it, and I don't believe that's the case. The biggest thing, Glenn, I mean, you look at this, I feel like the Grinch, if you will. I puzzled and puzzled till my puzzler is sore. It just doesn't make any sense. If you look at every nation, it's really hard to create a very plausible explanation for why that nation would do it. It's certainly the case if you're trying to argue the U.S. did it. And by the way, some of the reporting on this is misleading in the sense that they take the statement from Victoria Nuland, for example, the State Department official. She's clearly talking about Nord Stream 2 and that they're going to try to pressure Germany not to approve opening that pipeline. And I think some people misread that, say, oh, see, they're threatening to blow it up. Ukraine simply doesn't have the capability, and I don't think Ukraine would do it because it would stress the relationship with the Allies so much. Russia, on the other hand, I think you could make an argument that, for one thing, they just want to create chaos. That's very, very clear. And this could be a tool for them. The EU is looking at a deadly winter. I mean, literally a deadly winter. There's potential for thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people to freeze to death in the EU.
Oh, my gosh.
Think about this, Glenn. For the average EU home, it's going to cost more than $3,000 a month to heat their home over this next winter. And I think that Russia would have been under enormous pressure to open up that pipeline, and this just eliminates that for them. They don't have to deal with that international pressure now. But I think more than that, they love the chaos. And my greatest fear is that it shows that we're not in the wind down phase of this war. We're really in the opening stages of it still. And if Russia did this, and my personal belief is that they probably did, it shows you that there's a lot of things, a lot of tools that they are still have available to them that are going to make it really difficult for us to step through the next, I think, 6 months or so.
And if we don't really know, they can claim we did it or anybody else did it and escalate, because they immediately said, well, this gloves come off now if you can do this. Forget about nukes, which they did mention that justifies nukes. But forget about that. That means if they claim we did it, they could hit our energy infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the very obvious conclusions is that they would claim that we did it, regardless of who did it,
Correct.
including if they did it. They're going to say that we did, and it's going to open the door for them to retaliate. And if you take that in conjunction with what happened yesterday and them claiming that there was this supposed referendum on the four essentially states in eastern Ukraine, where, I mean, these numbers sound Stalinistic. 99% of the people there voted to join with Russia. 92% of the people in another region voted to join with Russia. Again, those are the kind of numbers that Stalin would win by. And it's beyond belief, of course. But if you combine these two events of the last few days, you can see that Vladimir Putin is positioning himself. He's not looking to wind things down. Excuse me. He's looking to exert more pressure, not less.
So I talked to Chad Robichaux, who was in Ukraine just recently, and he actually walked the mass graves. He told me last night, because I said, before I put you on the air and saying this, I've seen the video, but I want to make sure you didn't just see a patch of dirt or you saw things that the Ukrainian government were saying this is what it was, that you actually saw these things. And he said, Glenn, I saw women and children with their hands tied behind their back and bullets in their head that they tried to bury quickly because they were leaving. This is crimes against humanity.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. It shows a couple things. It shows the desperation of Vladimir Putin's leadership. It shows the inhumanity of leadership, which doesn't surprise, I think, anyone. It also shows the results of a hastily assembled and untrained army. This is now not a professional army any longer. Many of them are conscripts that have been in the army for, in some cases, a matter of a few weeks is all, with very little training, if any, and including in that, the laws of war, the discipline of a professional soldier that we don't expect from them any longer. Which brings me to this one point, Glenn, I hope I can make. And I think now stepping back from that, and that is, okay, where are we in the U.S. and what are we doing there? I just finished an editorial that asked this question. Look, in the early days of the war, I supported the separate. I thought we had to help Ukraine and the Ukraine military. They have shown enormous courage. They have demonstrated that courage on the battlefield can change a battlefield in ways that sometimes weapons can't. But the President of the United States has to tell the American people now, this is our goal in Ukraine. Because if President Biden agrees with President Zelensky that now our objective is to expel every Russian from eastern Ukraine, including Crimea, then I promise you, we will be at war with Russia. If that is our goal, Vladimir Putin is not going to leave Crimea. I mean, it was part of Russia up until 1958, and when Khrushchev drew a line and says, oh, now you're part of Ukraine now. And the people there genuinely are ethnically Russian. They speak Russian. They want to be with Russia. And Putin is not going to surrender Crimea. And if President Biden agrees with Zelensky, he needs to embrace the American people for a long, long, and potentially very deadly war. If, on the other hand, our goal is just to say, go back to the pre-February invasion lines, then he should state that that's our goal so that Zelensky knows we're not going to support him going beyond that. I think we're at this point now where we have to define why we are there and at what cost is it going to be to achieve the goals of that defined reason for being there. And this president hasn't done that at all. And the result of that, Glenn, is 20 years later we may be in there just like we were in Iraq or Afghanistan.
The Senate just passed a bill last night to fund the government, which includes another $12 billion for Ukraine. Chris, this has got to stop. It's got to stop.
Well, and one other thing that a lot of people don't realize, we're not just funding their military efforts, we're funding their entire government operations, including their pension plans.
What?
We are funding Ukrainian pension plans. That's right. And look, I want to help them. I am a defense hawk, and I believe the United States needs to help in this situation. But we have to define the limits of our help. We owe the American people an explanation for how much money we're willing to spend and how long we're willing to be there, Chris, and the goals we're trying to achieve.
Chris, will you do me a favor? Would you put me in touch with whomever has all of the information of where this money is going, including the pension plans? I would love to have you come on the air and explain it to the American people. Somebody has got to expose all this. I think, honestly, My first thought when I saw the Nord Stream was, I don't think that we did this. We didn't send our Navy SEALs in to do this. There's no way. However, I'm not convinced that some rogue party, somebody, and it could be for a million different reasons. I'm not convinced that some of our money that has been over there without any accounting didn't give somebody $500 million and say, go blow these things up. And we didn't do it, but it was maybe possibly our money. There's no accountability for any of this. And now that would be, $75 billion that we have sent over there? $5 billion can change the world.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I also point out in this latest editorial, Glenn, is that there's no IG, there's no accounting. We just send the money and hope it ends up where we say it does. And by the way, keep in mind, Ukraine is one of the most corrupt nations in the world.
I know.
They have been for generations.
They lost $7 billion during the Biden debacle when he was vice president. $7 billion just disappeared, and nobody ever said anything about it here.
Yeah. Well, that's because $7 billion is not that much money. Glenn.
Yeah, I know. I spend that on groceries lately.
Yeah,
okay.
Gas now.
So, Chris, will you? Can I have Ricky, my executive producer, reach out to you and just see if you can help us put some of this stuff together? Because I did not know that about their pensions. That's insanity. That's insanity.
Well, and again, it's one of those things the American people deserve to know. And I think most Americans want to help Ukraine. Again, Glenn, they've shown enormous courage. We don't want Vladimir Putin to control that nation, but we have to do it in a thoughtful way. If we don't look back on the last 20 years, and again, I'm a defense hawk. I'm a former Air Force guy. But you have to look back on the last 20 years in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and in Libya, and a number of other places and say, okay, what lessons have we learned? How can we do this better? And we need to apply those lessons to Ukraine. And this is the time to do that. I'd be happy to help you get that information. If you want to know where that money's going, good luck. I don't know who knows that. Now, what I can help you do is find out what specifically the language allows for. For example, pension funds in Ukraine. We can help you find that out for sure.
Jeez, that's incredible. All right. Chris Stewart, thank you so much. I appreciate everything you do in Congress. Keep strong, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Bye-bye. I may disagree with, some of the things that any of these guys in Washington do, but this guy is straight as an arrow. And we may disagree on, this issue or that issue, but I'm glad he's in Washington. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to defense, and we need him in those rooms to speak some sanity. I tell you, if you're going to Washington, if you're thinking about becoming a congressman or senator, do not get onto the Intel committee.